This might be a little hot because we are trying to use a microphone that records better, and it makes me look cool. See, now you can hear when I do my little asides that you're not supposed to hear. So now I have to be careful of what I say. It's Mother's Day, and that Proverbs 31 text I thought was awesome. And it's called the good wife, the good mother. It says in Hebrew, all the virtues, the wise and noble character of a wife and a mother, she is far more precious than rubies. And it lists all the attributes that are present in that lady. But not all mothers are like that. And I'm not trying to bring the room down, but nobody's perfect. Every mother ever has fears. It was given to her during the curses. And there's a lot of physical amount of pain that it talks about, but in the Hebrew, what it's referencing is the worry and the concern. That never goes away. The pain goes away. I mean, I've watched 4 births, which still freaks me out. But 30 seconds after the pain, they just want to hold the baby. Physical pain goes away. And the worries, the pain that a mother has to go through isn't all bound up in the birth. It's bound up in the life of their child. And worrying about the path they're going to take. And worrying how they're going to turn out to be. And it's the curse of the mothers is what I always told my mom, because I was always way taller than she was, and she just worried I was her little child. I was her little child forever. It didn't matter how old I was, and it didn't matter how tall I was or how fat I was. All that mattered was that she saw me when I was 1. She saw me when I was just a baby. And she was the mom. And that's an ideal, again. She wasn't perfect. And I tried to tell her, but she would just smack me. Mom, I'm really smart, and you really, bam. It's like, okay. No, she never slapped me. She did use a spoon on my butt a couple of times, but it was all in love. She worried and cared for me. And what's funny about my mom, and I don't know if this is the right place in the script to say it, was I was adopted. I was adopted. It wasn't a blood relative thing. And sometime when I was older, not as old as now, she passed away when she was 59, which I now realize is really young. But she came up to me at one point, I don't know, I forget when, but she said, if you want to go search for your real mother, then you can. And I was like, I don't care who my real mother is. You're my real mother. You stepped in. And you loved me no matter who I was. And you're not perfect, and I'm not perfect. And then she smacked me. And I said, oh, yeah, that's right. You're perfect, and I'm not. But she, that was my real mom. It doesn't have to be a physical birth. It's women step into men's life to provide guidance and direction and to contour them into what they need to be. And they need men too. But yeah, you can't overestimate a mom, a female, in a man's life, in a woman's life, in another female's life. It's a team. It's men and women, but throughout history, I think the feminine side and the women's side of cultures have been overlooked, except by those who are willing to sit down and think. And so, kids, close your ears. Part of me says, I love Mother's Day. And there's another part of me that says I hate Mother's Day. Because it's not big enough, is one thing. It's exclusive. We've made it exclusive to people who are mothers biologically. And then people who haven't had kids, well, I don't really have kids. Or, you know what I mean? And that's wrong. That's wrong. And let me set it up here with a story. Okay? And hopefully this story will kind of reveal what I'm thinking about. Maybe it will and maybe it won't. It was the Civil War time in Virginia. And there was a lady named Anne Marie Reeves Jarvis. And why they had to put all 4 names down, I have no idea. But she birthed 13 children. And only 4 of them lasted until adulthood. Because in Virginia at that time where she lived, there were measles, typhoid fever, diphtheria, things that we've kind of taken care of right now, but they were common in the Appalachian communities where she lived. And she was somebody who went after stuff. She went after stuff. So while she was pregnant with her 6th child, she formed something called the Mother's Day Work Clubs. This is the first Mother's Day introduction of that phrase. They were the Mother's Day Work Clubs. And what they did was they went around and they visited houses and they educated themselves and they went around to educate the other mothers about the dangers of these diseases and how they wrecked families. And she organized them, and they have a list of towns here that I won't go through. They wanted to provide assistance and education to families about the health issues of the time. In fact, they were right in touch. They were sought after in terms of how they can provide this community outreach. And as a result, a lot of children who might not have made it past the infant stage went into adulthood and became parents, probably, and members of the community. And so what happened was the Civil War came upon them. This was like mid-1800s, right before the Civil War. The Civil War came on them, and what she did, they altered their mission because they were in Virginia, and they were right around the part where West was about to break away and regular Virginia was about to stay. So they altered their mission during the Civil War. They committed to neutrality, which mothers will do. They don't care about why you're fighting. They just know that it's insane that you're willing to kill each over something, because do you know how hard it is to give birth? And now you're going to shoot each over what? They knew that there's always a diplomatic way to go about it. Not every person follows it, and not everybody does it, and you are forced into situations you don't want to be in, but at the same time they realize you can take a stand for humanity. You can take a stand for life against all the political ramifications of the time. If I'm talking too fast, it's because someone handed me a big cup of coffee beforehand. It's like called a mousse or something from Coffee Crossing, so it was caramel and chocolate and Anyway, so I'll try to slow my roll down just a bit. The Mother's Day work clubs became sought after. She was the first, this lady, Anna Marie Reeves Jarvis, she was killed. She was in an area where they were Confederate, and a Union soldier came in and got killed, the first one killed in that area. No one would pray for him. No one would pray for him. She prayed for him. She stood up. She prayed for him. He was a human before he was anything else. Was never an enemy. We're not enemies with each other. It's only by our blindness that we become enemies. She gave guidance. The clubs fed and clothed soldiers from both sides that were stationed in the area. Typhoid, fever, measles still broke out. Confederate generals, Union generals all came to her. Can you help my men? She wrote books. She did a bunch of stuff. She was a Methodist. She taught Sunday school at the Methodist Church. She became the supervisor and the superintendent for that. She strove to honor and help mothers. Then her daughter, which is Anne Maria, I don't know why they flip consonants. I'll just call her Anne. Her daughter Anne is the one, Anna. Let's call her Anna. Anna is the one who took up, after her mother passed away, she wanted to honor her mother. So she's the one who spent all of her money producing literature. She's the one who visited Congress. She knocked on people's doors. Anybody that would listen to Anna, the first thing she was going to talk about was establishing Mother's Day to honor her mom and to honor all mothers everywhere. Andrews Methodist Church held the first public service on the morning of May 10th, 1908. That was the first Mother's Day service. She was in Philadelphia at a big convention where 15,000 people attended for Mother's Day to get it going. In the years following the initial ceremonies, Anna's new holiday gained recognition in many states and spread to foreign countries. In 1914, President Woodrow Wilson signed a congregational resolution officially making the second Sunday in May National Mother's Day. And this is where it starts getting a little funny. Wilson's way, he said, he called on all Americans to recognize it by displaying the flag. Yeah, I'm glad there were a couple chuckles, because that's how man thinks. I know we're going to have, hey everybody, we're going to honor mothers today. Put your flags up. Doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me. And there's more to the story. First of all, do you realize that it went from Mother's Day work clubs to just Mother's Day? And that begs the question in my mind, how do you honor somebody who's on a mission like that? By continuing the mission or by raising your flag? In Anna's ideas were less about public service and more about simply honoring the role of motherhood. And that's, again, where it's fraught with danger. And because they do. Mothers are amazing. If you get anything from this, mothers and females are amazing. If you get anything from this. That's where I stand. She bombarded all the public figures. She addressed public groups. She wrote, she penned, she distributed. She used all of her money. She used a lot of her money and a lot of donations. And it says, although Jarvis, who started Mother's Day, Anna, was successful in the celebration, she became resentful of the commercialization. Because while you're knocking on doors, when you play in the mud, you get dirty. And your toys get dirty. And she handed the honoring of her mother off to a day. Off to a day. She spent the rest of her life fighting against the very thing she had created. She did boycotts of Mother's Day. She did lawsuits against companies involved. She argued that people should appreciate and honor their mothers through handwritten letters expressing their love and gratitude. Again, you don't tell people how to honor their mother. She had in mind something noble, like Memorial Day, right? You recognize these veterans. When I grew up, Memorial Day was just a day to pound beers, have a barbecue, and justify it by saying, this is what they fought for. I was down with it. It's like, yeah, go, give your life. I get to drink beer and do a barbecue and say, with a half a heart, yeah, thank you. I get to live comfortably. And again, it's that move from work clubs to honor. Because I don't think my mom had one thing that she wanted to be, and I hate to say about just my mom, but she's the only mom I knew. My mom had a thing. I know her birthday is September 13th. She had one day, one request, is that we get her birthday gifts on the morning of 13th. You couldn't bring her a gift in the afternoon She wanted her birthday gift in the morning because that showed to her that you had thought about it the day before. And it worked in her mind. I tried to tell her, and again, schmack. My dad, loved my dad. He never bought her one in the morning. Never. He came in the afternoon with a nice wrapped gift, and my mom, there was no love there in her mind. But I think part of what my mom was what my dad was doing, which is relevant to this point, was that he was saying, don't let me love you the way I love you. Don't tell me how to love you. And that's where Anna went wrong again. You can't make the dragon that is our government and our culture force you to do handwritten letters. Force you to honor it the way you think that they think you should honor them. It's just not right. The way I honor my mom would be different than the way you honor your mom, and that's good. And it shouldn't just be a day. I think we all can acknowledge that. Even though today's cool, family's in the florist business, so I say buy flowers, all of you. I love to eat, so I say take your mom to a restaurant. But it's so small, considering what a mom is and what a mom does, and what she has to live with for the rest of her life, which is the mom curse, where she never stops loving you. And that's an ideal. Again, not all moms are perfect. Not all sons and daughters are perfect. There is no perfect match. And that's what Jesus offered us, was peace and resolution. And Paul figured that out when he wrote Galatians. He said, there is no male or female in Jesus. There is no male or female. You love each other. You love each other every day. And I get it, special days. To me, the special days... Oh, by the way, Anna died penniless and mentally compromised in an asylum. She spent every penny she had trying to fight this beast that had been created. She tried with, I don't know how soon after it started that she realized that people were jumping on to make money off of everybody. A great way to see it, you know how Father's Day started, right? The ties. The tie company started Father's Day. They saw the gold mine. Why do you think we buy ties for fathers? It's not like everybody on the earth had the same thought. Hey, let's buy Dad a tie. It's because that's how it was started with commercials. That's how it was started with branding. That's how we started to be programmed. Once the people saw the money they were making off of Mother's Day, it was like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. It's how we get branded. It's how we get programmed. Because I just think, I can't help but think that it might have, that philosophy of branding and programming and getting our money out of our pockets might not have slipped into worshiping Jesus. That's just me. That's just me. When we all do the exact same thing at the exact same time in the exact same way, it's like, I know humans aren't exactly the same. And it smacks to me of a money grab somewhere, or a power grab. And I'm not trying to put it down. Again, you have to remember, I love my mom to death. She was my mom. She wasn't perfect. Tried to slap me now. I think we've got to remember this. It is John 21, and this is, I know, odd scripture to pull out on Mother's Day, but you know what? You get what you pay for. Jesus had risen from the dead, and he was having talks with Peter, and they were cooking food on the side of a lake. And Jesus had just talked to Peter and talked about him, his role in leading the church at that time, talked about what he would have to sacrifice in order to be a leader. And so Peter was all good with that, but then it says Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved, and we'll call him John, was following them. This is the one who leaned back against Jesus at the supper and had said, Lord, who's going to betray you? I think we already knew who he was, but When Peter saw him, when Peter looked at John, he had just had a discussion with Jesus. When Peter saw John, he asked, Lord, what about him? You know, you just told me a lot about myself. Yeah, but what about that guy? And Jesus said, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? What is my relationship, what does your relationship with me have to do with my relationship with him? How could you get confused that fast? I think we forget that. And I think that's why people will come out. Do you know, I've done sermons and I forget them all. How many days they invent? Every single day of the year has like a list of 10 things. That it's dog day. It's dogs that have tails day. It's dinosaur day. It's, it just goes on and on. It's ice cream cone day, which is fantastic because I go to Dairy Queen and I get a free ice cream cone. But it's every single day. Why? Because they know they can make money. They know they can make money off you. It's programming. And we grew up that way, and that's what Mother's Day is. And we forget, you have a relationship with Jesus. You have your relationship with Jesus. There are no labels. There are no following men or women. There's nothing else except you and Jesus. What does that person have to do with your relationship with me? Oh, yeah, nothing. Except you are the servant. And why we have to label ourselves, from politics to religion to skin color to you name it, we label ourselves all the way down the line. It's just in human nature because we're trying to gain a value and an identity that we're afraid to take a stand against. And I'm telling you today, love your mom all up, but know that you love her tomorrow the same way you love her today. And you love Jesus the same way tomorrow as you love him today. That's the gift that he died for, so that you could live a consistent life. You didn't have to be every wind of doctrine and labeling and everything that comes along. Doesn't matter. Yeah, Jesus, but what about that group of people over there? When they meet, they do. What does that have to do with you? Television, the monster, the dragon that we invented into our house, makes us all think the exact same thoughts, makes us all have the exact same conversations, the same phrases, the same way of thinking. So today is Mother's Day. The lady who invented Mother's Day spent every penny she had and went crazy trying to kill this thing. That's why I hate Mother's Day, because she does. She got it. Mothers are way bigger than that. It says in Galatians 6, pay careful attention to your own work. Are you doing the work of a system? Which we all do at some level. But then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done, and you won't need to compare yourself to anyone else. For we are all responsible for our own conduct. Your anger at what you perceive to wrong isn't righteous anger. It's just straight out anger. There's a way to attack things that are immoral without being angry. Frustrated, can't believe it, absurd. But I know that the highest level of me following Jesus is to be loving and kind and patient. It's hard to believe. I saw a meme the other day about something, how, loving, if they say loving and kindness and acceptance, they're just communists. It's like, no, you just don't get it. Don't get it. It says, in Romans, they were arguing about a bunch of different things because that's what churches do, and rightfully so. So I just put down a few verses about Romans. In the same way, some people think one day is super holy, and I think in this culture that would be Sunday. Other people, like me, there's really nothing different. Except we go to church on this day, and I think it's cool that we all meet. But in terms of just a day, there's no difference. And you should each be fully convinced that whatever day you choose is acceptable. Case closed. There's people who think today is just the day, and I'm like, you go. I don't think that way. I don't think that way. But we're both brothers and sisters. We're both brothers and sisters. So why do you condemn another believer? Why do you look down on a believer? Remember, we all stand before the judgment seat of God alone. Yeah, but they told me to do this. I thought that since everybody was jumping off a bridge, which my mom used to say, since everybody's jumping off a bridge, I should jump off the bridge too. It's like, I don't know if that's going to fly with God. And you can read the rest because it's getting near time. But this is this is my mature part. I'm going to display my maturity to you. 10 years ago, if it was Mother's Day, it was time to bring out the guns blazing. And I wasn't talking about mothers. I was talking about how cultures throughout history have absolutely destroyed females. Just absolutely destroyed them. They've kept them down. They've made them servants. They wouldn't let them learn. They don't even let them drive in some countries now. They have absolutely, human males have been assaulting females since day one. Oh, wait, I should go goo goo gaga. That. In China, we all know what a baby female, what happens. I hope you do. What that cry elicits in the leaders of certain cultures and countries. I hope you do. I hope you're not that embedded in the culture that you don't know what would happen to a crying female baby at that time. And to think that I was brought up in a church. Do you know Proverbs 31 was written to a man? Okay, it wasn't written to women. It was to King Lemuel. I try to say it like I do Louisville. King Louisville. My daughter asked me, she said, if we call Louisville, Louisville, she goes, why don't we call St. Louis, St. Louis? I had no answer. It was written to a man. And this is the part that can be tempting. You use Proverbs 31, women do it as a template for how my life should be. And there's a lot of good things in it. But really what it's written for is a challenge from a mother to her king to unleash women from all of the cultural baggage that they have to put up with, from all the religious baggage they have to put up with, that all the junk that goes along, all the conferences about women's role in religion, all the styles that say women have to wear this, all the ways women have to walk. They still walk 10 feet behind certain men in certain cultures today. And the absurdity that we can't figure out that males and females are exactly the same. They have the same value before God as anybody. The differences, of course, are in muscles and in structure, because we were built to do different things than they were. I mean, that should be obvious. And women are being attacked today by men who actually think they're women. It's the most absurd thing you could ever come up with. And it's happening right now. And they take it out on the fields where the women are competing. And when they win, they act like they did something. That's an attack on women. God, Jesus, but women. So I don't care what you think in terms of like, well, Ed, we can discuss it. No. Everything has to be biblical in a way. Everything has to be biblical. This is all we have. In the Old Testament, it says there are two genders, male and female, biologically. The image of them together is God. We are made in the image, male and female, they were created. In the image of God, they're the image of God. Not one without the other. And what Proverbs 31 is challenging the king to do is to get rid of all of the things he's been taught in terms, this is 1,000 years before Jesus. All the things they've been taught, the women's roles. And see, the challenge is to eradicate within your own realm all of the sins against women and all of the false notions that are being projected by women. And so in my realm, which is church realm, women can do the exact same things as men. There are women in the audience right now that can preach better than me. I had friends, ladies that I was in the last church. She wanted to be an engineer, but she wasn't allowed to go to engineering school. This is in the United States of America. She lives in Alabama, about 4 hours from here. She told me herself she wanted to be an engineer. Her dad wouldn't let her. The school wouldn't let her. The culture wouldn't let her. How stupid is that? Because she was a woman. That's in my field, so I'm allowed to express an opinion. And if you want to put your own opinion, get a microphone, say it. But right now, I'm telling you, it's stupid. Women can do whatever they want in the religious field. They can preach, they can teach, they can be prophets, they can be missionaries. They sit in on board meetings, they sit on executive meetings, they make decisions if God has gifted them that way. You don't just get there because you're a woman, you don't just get there because you're a man, you get there because God has gifted you with certain gifts that this community needs to go ahead and to move forward and to have the actual image of God. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. And you can see the response of women to them being shackled by how hard they fight to get free. How hard they fight to get free. My daughter will never know that from my lips, that there is nothing she can't do. I may try to talk her out of being an NFL player. You sure you want to go there, May? She's not here, so I can say whatever I want. That I would spend all the time I just spent right now, I would spend on that one topic. Because that's just something that's core. We try to figure out why the world's insane, and you have countries out there where women can't learn, and there are mercy killings and familial killings and killings in the name of righteous whatever, and you can't figure out why the world's insane. And then as a man, you're challenged to think, how have I been programmed? Because I was brought up like, women don't preach. Women can't be in charge of that. In fact, we're going to have a conference called The Role of Women in Church. How stupid is that? Who are you? First of all, it's a flaw. I'm not even going to go into it. It gets me, it irks me. And so I say, Happy Mother's Day. Because I love mothers. I could never be a mom, obviously. You know, they do things. If you read Proverbs 31, she's trying to tell her son, these females can do things that you'll never be able to do. They have a power. Together, if you unleash them and let them live without the constraints